All right, we're on the record now in hearing number 2021-01049, the matter of the discrimination complaint of Eric Hunsicker, complainant versus Charter Steele, respondent. On May 12th of 2021, Eric Hunsicker filed a complaint with the Equal Rights Division of the state of Wisconsin, alleging that Charter Steele discriminated against him on the basis of his age, which he identified as 58 at the time that he filed the complaint, with a birth date of September 8th, 1962. On September 29th of 2021, the department issued an initial determination finding that there was probable cause to believe that the respondent may have violated law by terminating the employment of the complainant because of age. As a result of that initial determination, this matter was scheduled for hearing on the merits of the complaint. That is being conducted today on December 15th, 2022, via WebEx video before Administrative Law Judge John Gelhard. Let's have the appearances, starting with the complainant.
Alan Olson and Associates, on behalf of the complainant. Mr. Hunsicker, Eric Hunsicker, appears in person.
And for the respondent.
Attorney Christy Foy and Attorney Carissa Pennow from Ogletree Deacons on behalf of the respondent, Charter Steele. Appearing also via video is Kelly Manowski and Sam Kimmel.
All right, let me briefly go over the procedure for today's hearing. It is a formal hearing. The testimony is taken under oath. I will be asking questions of everyone who testifies today as a witness. Both of the attorneys will have an opportunity to ask questions of anyone who testifies as a witness. Any documents that are received as exhibits at today's hearing will be considered for the decision itself. The hearing is being recorded on a WebEx system. I would ask all witnesses to please speak clearly and loud enough that your testimony is picked up by that recorder. Any questions about the actual procedure for today's hearing then, starting with Attorney Olson? Any questions about the procedure?
No, thank you.
And Attorney Foy, any questions about the procedure?
No.
All right, we'll move on then to the issue formulation stage of today's proceeding. The issue that we'll take up today is whether the respondent violated the Wisconsin Fair Employment Law by terminating the complainant because of age. The complainant does have the burden of proof at today's hearing, and as a result, we will start with the testimony of the complainant first, or his evidence will be taken first. Attorney Olson, who's going to be the first witness for the complainant?
Mr. Hunsicker.
All right, and all right, I guess so you're going to direct your examination to Mr. Hunsicker. We'll need to have him in the camera view, which we don't have right now. Okay, we don't necessarily need to see you for this portion of the proceeding, Attorney Olson. So, Mr. Hunsicker, if you'd please raise your right hand, I'll swear you in for your testimony. Do you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you would state your name for the record, spelling your last name.
And sorry to interrupt, Judge.
Yes.
Before we move on, I'd move to sequester any individuals other than a company representative.
Okay. So Attorney Foy has indicated that the company representative is Kelly Manowski, and so Ms. Kimmel, who is also expected to be a witness. Ms. Kimmel, we'd ask you to basically, step away from the proceedings at this point in time. And I guess that means, we'll contact you via your attorney when your testimony is needed.
Sounds good. I'll leave the meeting now. Thank you. Okay,
thanks. All right. So, Mr. Hunsicker, I don't know. I know I swore you were in. Did you spell your last name for the record?
I did not.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Eric Hunsicker, Hunsicker.
Yes, and your current mailing address?
6054 Lake Church Road, Belgium, Wisconsin.
And the zip there is 53004, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What's your birth?
9/8/1962.
All right, and Attorney Olson, questions for your client.
All right. This is, I guess, established already, but what is your date of birth?
9/8/1962.
And what is your highest level of education?
12th grade high school.
And during what time period did you work at Charter Steele?
From 1985 to 2021.
Okay. And your employment was terminated in April of 2021?
Yes.
Okay. Was that April 5?
April 5th.
All right.
Yes.
And what was your last job there?
Maintenance mechanic and mold repair.
And how long had you held that position?
10 years.
And to whom did you report in that job?
Brian Coakley.
Did you have any other managing bosses there?
Keith Hosh
Any others?
and Eric Novicki.
Of course, my pen went dry, so I'll be right back.
Okay.
And where did you physically work for the Charter Steele?
Charter Steele, the melting division, maintenance department.
Okay, and what town is that located in?
Saukville, Wisconsin.
And about how many employees worked at that plant?
500. Well, yeah,
And
the complex.
do you know the approximate square footage of the plant?
4 acres.
And what does the company do at that location?
Melt scrap and make billets into coils.
What's a billet?
It's a 5.5 inch by 5.5 inch chunk of steel, 40 to 54 feet long.
In a coil, what is that?
Coil is produced after the billet is ran through the rolling mill, and they roll it down into round stock and coil it into a coil.
Okay, and the coil is put on what? Is it on a reel, or what do you call the coiled metal? Is it just
Objection leading.
It's called coils. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I didn't hear the response. So the question was, the coils put on what, and then what is your response, Mr. Hunsicker?
Well, they put them on. They either dip them in an acid wash to get the scale off of them, or they draw them through a separate machine, or they put them on trucks to get shipped elsewhere to be manufactured into nuts and bolts. And
All right, I don't believe the question was leading in that particular fashion. Go on, Attorney Olson.
And what were your job duties?
mold repair and general maintenance.
Could you describe in a little more detail what is involved in mold repair?
Well, to make the billet, the hot metal runs through a copper tube to produce the billet, and I have to take the copper tube and replace the copper tube in the molds to use the billet. I have to work with, used to work with radioactive sources and water and
And what were your hours of work?
5 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And as of April 2021, how many days per week did you work?
We worked a 5-2-2-5 schedule. 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days, 2 days on, 5 days off.
And that would be when you did work, you worked 12-hour days?
Yes.
And during those 12-hour days, was there always management present in the plant?
Yes, except the management wasn't there on weekends,
Okay.
and we would work every other weekend.
Now, you understand that your termination was based on the company observing you standing on a 4-foot pallet rack, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you know how that pallet rack was originally assembled?
Yes.
Who assembled it?
I did with the help of 3 other maintenance personnel.
And could you describe the process of assembling that pallet rack?
Well, you put up the outer frame, and then you put braces to hold up the outer frame, and then put steel wire racking on the brackets to hold the pallets.
When you assembled it, did you have tie-offs from on your body to a stable surface?
Objection leading.
It was leading. Can you reformulate the question, Attorney Olson?
Sure. In describing the assembly, what safety measures were taken, if any?
At the time we put those up, we used a scissors lift, but you had to bolt the frame together so it wouldn't fall over, or it wouldn't jostle on the floor. So we had to bolt them together, bolt them to the floor, and get up on top of the racking to put the wire mesh racking in place.
So when you stood on the rack during the assembly, were you tied off?
No.
And what items would go on the pallet rack once it was assembled?
We put wire spools or wire reels on the racking, and motors and gearboxes and
Did you ever observe any employees climbing on the pallet rack?
yes.
For what purpose would you see employees or individuals climbing on the pallet rack?
To take inventory.
How often did that happen?
Usually once a year.
Were there any other purposes that individuals were on the pallet rack?
Yes, we needed to get on the pallet rack to take off some of the wire spools or reels, because it was a 10 foot wide or 8 foot wide rack, and some of the reels were located in the center of the rack. So you needed to get up on top of the rack to hook a crane, hook the reel up to a crane, overhead crane, and take the reels down off the racking.
Was there a rule at the plant that individuals were not allowed to stand on a pallet rack that was 4 feet or higher?
Objection leading.
Yes, there was a rule.
I think that
The OSHA
I'm
rule.
going to let the answer stand at this point in time. Go ahead, Mr. Hunsicker.
And you described instances when individuals were on the pallet rack. Were they tied off somewhere when they'd be on the pallet rack?
It depended on how high the racking was.
Or the 4-foot pallet rack that you assembled and you observed individuals climbing on that particular pallet rack?
Yes.
Were they tied off when they were on that particular pallet rack?
No.
Do you know why?
Objection speculation.
If he is aware of, for instance, some explanation to that effect, I'll allow the witness to respond to that.
There was no legal tie off to be tied off to OSHA regulated legal tie off.
Were management personnel present when individuals would climb on the pallet rack?
Objection leading.
I'm sorry, what was the nature of the objection?
Leading.
It is leading. I'm going to allow the witness to answer the question, though.
Yes, they were in the building.
With respect to the incident that led to Charter firing you, you were standing on a pallet rack. Do you remember when that was?
That was on April 1st, 2021.
All right. And you're working your regular shift that day?
Yes.
And what prompted you to go onto the pallet rack?
I was helped to get my work done in my work area. I needed to help an electrician that needed to put a cord reel up on top of that 4-foot shelving or pallet racking.
And why did you need to do that?
Because he had taken a pallet apart and it was scattered all over the area that I normally work in to repair molds.
So what about the fact that there was, are you saying there was debris in your work area?
Yes, he had torn a pallet apart and there was wood, pieces of pallet all over the.
So how is that connected with you going onto the pallet rack? In other words, what about you going on the pallet rack would address the fact that your work area was obscured?
To get my job done, I needed to help him put this reel up on the pallet rack before I could get my job done, and to help. Everybody helped each other out, so I needed to help him because he couldn't get the reel up on the racking where he needed to because the crane didn't reach where he needed to put it.
Okay, so this pallet rack is what, about a foot higher than a dining room table? The top of it?
Objection leading again.
It is leading, and I think that it's obviously there's dining room tables have various heights, so I don't know that the witness is going to be able to accurately answer the question as it's formulated.
Okay, the pallet rack was how high?
Oh, neck high. My neck high.
Okay, but is it how many feet?
4 feet,
Okay,
exactly. 4 feet.
exactly 4 feet. And were you tied off when you were on the pallet rack?
No, I was not,
Why not?
because there was no legal OSHA regulated tie off to.
Did you use a ladder?
No, I could not use the ladder
Why not?
because I would have had to I would have had to stretch out over where it's not safe to because the ladder would, if you reach out too far over this either side, right or left, you reach out too far, the ladder tends to fall over and that would be unsafe.
All right, and so you were on the pallet rack to move what item?
Cord reel
And what did the cord reel weigh?
with the wire on it, it weighs close to 250 pounds.
Okay, and why did you need to move it?
We needed to move it because the crane would not reach an area where he was trying to install or put another cord reel.
Okay, and I'll show you a photograph of the pallet rack in a moment, but by moving over that reel, what was the purpose of moving it? In other words, what would that enable you to do after you moved it?
We were able to use the overhead crane to drop the other reel in place.
And so the overhead crane would reach the area on the pallet rack that you would open up,
Yes,
but the crane that would not reach, if I understand your testimony, to the location where you needed to move the pallet rack, or to move rather the reel in order to open up the space.
correct.
And did anyone in management talk to you while you were on the pallet rack?
As I was getting off, Brian Coakley, my supervisor, walked in the maintenance area where we're moving the reels.
What did he say?
He said, "Get down from there. You know, you're supposed to have a harness on." And I told him that there was no place to tie off to.
Was anything else said between you and Coakley?
Not at that time, no.
And when was the next time you talked to anyone in management about the pallet rack?
Halfway through the day, Brian Coakley called me in his office.
Was anyone present other than the two of you?
Keith Hosh.
And what was said in that conversation?
That I could have been fired for, that they could fire me for climbing on the pallet racking, and that he was not going to say anything.
And what did you say in response, if anything?
All I said in the meeting was okay.
When was the next time that you heard anything from management about the pallet rack?
Later on that day, he called me in his office again and pretty much said the same thing, that I was not that he could have fired me for being up on the pallet racking.
And how did you respond to that?
I just said, okay.
When was the next time you heard anything from management about the pallet rack?
As Keith Hosh was going home, I believe, he had mentioned that I better watch my step and I better be careful, that I could have been fired.
What did you say?
I said, I will do that. I'll watch my step.
Okay, when was the next time you had any communication with management about the pallet rack?
As Eric Novicki was leaving, he had stopped me and said nothing. When I had said so, he had heard that I was on top of the pallet racking, and that nothing would come of it, because I was worried that they were going to fire me.
And did you see anything in response to him?
I said, I hope that that's the case, that nothing would come of it.
And when was the next time you heard anything from management about the pallet rack?
5 days later, 4 days later, on Tuesday, following Tuesday at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Did you work all of those days between the 1st and the 5th?
Yes,
How many hours per day?
12 hours.
And was there any,
On the 5th, only 8 hours.
okay. And at the end of the 8th hour, was that when they told you something about your employment status?
They said that they were sending me home.
Who told you that?
Brian Coakley.
Did you see anything else?
No, that was it.
When was the next time you heard anything from management about your employment status?
Exactly. I think it was 2 days later, or a day later. They called, and
Who's they?
it was Sam Inc. Sam was Sam Inks, but it was Sam. She was just on.
The person who was
The person who was
on before?
our HR girl said that they were going to let me go.
What did you say in response?
That I could not believe that they were letting me or firing me for something like this.
Was there anything else said between the two of you?
After I said that I couldn't believe that they were going to fire me for this, she kind of giggled and said, "Yes, we are letting you go."
Said she giggled. What
Yes.
do you mean by that?
Well, as she was saying, yes, we're letting you go, and she kind of giggled as she was saying it, I guess, from what I heard on the phone,
And
over the phone.
was there anything else in that conversation?
No. Well, that they were sending me some paperwork, and that they were going to send my toolbox home, and yeah, that was pretty much it.
All right, Judge, I'd like to go through some exhibits. We've got paper copies here. Is it necessary for me to put the exhibits up on the screen?
I will not need them. I've got the paper documents right in front of me. I guess, Attorney Foy, would you like the documents to be shown on the screen as they're being introduced?
I have paper copies as well, but Attorney Olson, if you might just hold up the paper so that we can all confirm we're looking at the same document, that might be helpful given the confusion this morning with the exhibits.
Sure. So first one we'll look at is Complainants Exhibit 17.
All right, and what's the Bates page for that? If you know, actually, these are not all Bates stamped.
It is the second page, and it's the photograph.
Just see here.